I gotcha. You're safe now.
The auctioneer's gavel slammed down.
Let's fix that.
3 silver coins. That's all it took to buy a human life. Allora Callaway stood on that block, bruised and silent, waiting for another master. But when the tall cowboy knelt before her in front of that jeering crowd, removing her boots with gentle hands, she screamed not from fear, but from the shock of dignity she'd forgotten existed. What happened next would shatter everything she thought she knew about freedom. Before we continue, please subscribe to our channel and stay with us until the end of this incredible journey. Comment below with your city, so I can see how far this story travels across the world.
And the quiet mountains.
The rope bit into Allora's wrists.
You're safe
She didn't
now.
flinch. Crying made it worse. She'd learned that at 15 when her father first sold her. The barn stank of tobacco and sweat and something darker. Something that smelled like men who bought flesh. Gentlemen, we've saved the best for last. The auctioneer's voice bounced off the walls. 19 years old, untouched, pure as... Get on with it, someone shouted. Allora kept her eyes down. Count the knots in the floorboards. 1, 2, 3. Breathe. 4, 5, 6. Survive. Let's start at 5 silver. Silence. 4 then. The auctioneer's smile cracked. Come on, boys. Young, strong. She'll work hard and breed good. Allora's stomach twisted. She'd heard these words before. Different barn, same script. Her father had said, family needs to eat. Her stepmother had said, can't feed another mouth. By the 3rd sale, Allora stopped asking why people kept choosing hunger over her. 3 silver. That's robbery, gentlemen. A man spat tobacco juice. She looks half dead. She ain't broken, just quiet. Some men prefer that. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Allora closed her eyes. In her mind, she was at the river she'd seen once as a child. Water so clear you could see the bottom. Her father had yanked her away. That's for decent folk. She'd never been decent folk. 3 silver going once. I'll pay it. The voice cut clean through the noise. Allora's eyes snapped open. A man stood at the back, tall weathered hat pulled low. Sunlight caught his shoulders. The auctioneer squinted. Cole Jarrett didn't think you came to these things. I don't. The man Cole walked forward. The crowd parted without being asked. But I heard what you were selling. She's a fine girl, healthy. She's a person. Cole's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. You're selling her like cattle. Well, that's the business. The auctioneer forced a laugh. You got 3 silver or not? Cole pulled out 3 coins, placed them down one by one. Clink, clink, clink. She's yours. No returns. She's not mine. Cole walked toward the platform. She's nobody's. Allora tensed. Here it comes. The grab. The claim. The hand in her hair. Every man before had marked his territory immediately. But Cole stopped 3 feet away. Your name? Allora's throat locked. No one had asked her name in 4 years. Allora, she whispered. Allora Callaway. Miss Callaway. He said it like she was a lady, like she mattered. I'm going to take you out of here. But first I need 30 seconds of trust. Can you give me that trust? The word felt like a foreign language. But something in his gray eyes made her nod. Cole knelt. The barn went dead silent. Even the drunk men stopped laughing. Allora's breath caught. She'd seen men kneel before to pray, to beg, to grovel. But this was different. This was deliberate. What the hell, someone started? Cole ignored them. His calloused fingers touched her ankle. These boots hurt. Allora looked down. The leather was cracked 3 sizes too small. They'd been on her feet for 2 weeks. Blisters had blisters. She nodded. Let's fix that. He unlaced the right boot slowly. When he pulled it free, Allora gasped. Her foot was raw, bleeding. Cole's jaw tightened, but he didn't speak. Just set the boot aside and reached for the left one. Stand up, Jarrett, the auctioneer barked. You're making a scene. Good. Cole removed the second boot and stood holding both in one hand. He turned to face the crowd. I paid 3 silver. That's the price of a knife, a bottle of whiskey, a decent horse for one night. What's your point? My point. Cole's voice rang clear. I just bought her silence from monsters, not her life, not her body, not her soul. Just the right to take her somewhere you bastards can't touch her anymore. He turned back to Allora. You don't belong to them now, and you don't belong to me. Understand? Allora stared. The words didn't compute. Everyone belonged to someone. Daughters to fathers, wives to husbands, slaves to masters. There was no in-between. I don't understand. You will. Cole held out his hand palm up, not grabbing, offering. Come with me or stay here and wait for the next bidder. Your choice. Choice. Allora looked at his hand, at the crowd of hungry eyes, back at his face. She placed her shaking fingers in his palm. His hand closed around hers, warm, solid, real. Then let's go. He led her down through the silent crowd. Allora walked on bleeding feet, but didn't feel pain. She felt something stranger, lighter, like a rope had been cut. Behind them, the auctioneer called, You'll regret that Jarrett girl like that needs a firm hand. Cole paused at the barn door, didn't turn around. A firm hand is just a closed fist with better marketing. They stepped into sunlight. A bay horse waited outside. Cole lifted her up first, careful, not rough, then swung up behind her. He kept space between them, even though the saddle was small. Where are we going? Allora's voice cracked. My cabin, 4 hours north. Fear spiked through her chest. Isolated, no witnesses. Her breathing quickened. There's a town 2 miles from my place, Cole added quietly. General store church, decent people. If you want to go there instead, I'll take you. Or I'll pay for a week at the boarding house and you'll never see me again. This isn't a cage, Miss Callaway. It's a ride. Allora closed her eyes. Every instinct screamed, don't trust him, but she was so tired of being afraid. The cabin. All right. Cole clicked his tongue. The horse started walking. We'll go slow. Your feet need tending. They rode in silence. The sun climbed higher. Dust rose from the trail. Allora kept waiting for the trap to spring. But Cole just rode one hand on the reins, one hand loose at his side. Finally, she couldn't stand it. Why did you do that? Do what? Kneel. By me. All of it. Cole was quiet so long, she thought he wouldn't answer. I had a sister once, Sarah. She was 15 when my father sold her to a man from Montana. Said we needed money. Said she'd have a better life. His voice went flat. I was 12. Too young to stop it. Allora's throat tightened. What happened to her? Don't know. Spent 10 years looking. He paused. Found her grave 3 months ago. She died 2 winters after she was sold. The man who bought her said she fell downstairs. But the woman who washed her body told me different. Said Sarah's bones were broken in too many places for any fall. Silence stretched between them. So when I heard about the auction today, Cole continued, I remembered standing in our barn watching my sister cry while a stranger put his hands on her. I remembered thinking someone should do something, but nobody did. Everyone just watched. And you decided to be someone who does something. I decided to stop being 12 years old. Allora looked at her hands, still shaking. I'm not your sister. No, but you're somebody's daughter, maybe somebody's sister. And if I can keep you from ending up in a grave like Sarah's, 3 silver is cheap. They rode on. The sun moved. Allora's feet throbbed, but her mind was louder trying to understand this man who knelt before strangers and spoke about his sister's broken bones like they were his own. An hour passed, maybe 2. The trail narrowed. Pine trees replaced dust. The air tasted cleaner. Then Cole tensed. Someone's following us. Allora's heart slammed against her ribs. Who? Don't know yet. His voice stayed calm. Could be nothing. Could be someone from the auction with regrets. What do we do? Keep riding. Act normal. His hand moved closer to something at his belt. If I tell you to duck, you duck. Understand? Allora nodded, throat too tight to speak. They rounded a bend. A man stepped onto the trail, the same man who'd spat tobacco at the auction. He held a rifle across his chest. That's far enough, Jarrett. Cole stopped the horse. Jake, didn't know you were interested in a ride through the mountains. I ain't. Jake spat again. I'm interested in that girl. Frank over at the auction said you stole her. Frank's a liar. I paid 3 silver, same as anyone else could have done. Yeah, but you didn't buy her proper. Didn't claim her. That means the sale don't count. Jake's eyes crawled over Allora. So I'm claiming her now. Free and clear. Allora felt ice flood her veins. This was it. The trap she'd been waiting for. Cole would hand her over, or he'd... No, Cole said simply. Jake laughed. You deaf, I got a rifle. You got a girl with bloody feet and a conscience that's gonna get you killed. Do the math. I did the math. Cole's voice went quiet. Dangerous. Here's what it looks like. You've got 1 shot in that rifle before you need to reload. I've got 2 revolvers and 10 years of practice. You're standing 20 feet away, easy range. I'm on a horse with high ground. You shoot me, you might hit me, might not. But I'll definitely hit you. And even if you get lucky and kill me first, this horse is trained to run home, which means Miss Callaway gets away regardless. Jake's smile faltered. So here's your choice. Cole continued. You can walk away right now, and we all forget this happened. Or you can try your luck with that rifle, and one of us, maybe both of us, ends up dead over 3 silver coins. Your call. The forest went quiet. A bird called out somewhere. Allora couldn't breathe. Jake's knuckles went white on the rifle. Then he spat again and stepped aside. You're gonna regret this, Jarrett. I've regretted bigger things. Cole clicked his tongue, and the horse moved forward. They rode past Jake. Allora didn't breathe until they were around the next bend. Then her whole body started shaking. You're safe, Cole said quietly. He won't follow. How do you know? Because Jake's a coward. Cowards only fight when they think they'll win. He paused. You all right? I don't know. Allora's voice came out small. You would have killed him. For me. Would have defended you. There's a difference. Is there? Yes. Cole's voice was firm. Killing for someone means you own them. Defending someone means you think they're worth defending. Big difference. Allora turned those words over in her mind. She'd never been worth defending before. Worth buying, yes. Worth using. Worth selling. But defending, that was new. Why? She whispered. You don't even know me. Don't need to know you don't deserve to be grabbed off a trail by a man with a rifle. They rode on. The sun began its descent. Golden light filtered through pine needles. Allora's shaking gradually stopped, replaced by exhaustion so deep her bones ached. Almost there, Cole said. The cabin appeared through the trees, small, sturdy, built from silvered logs. A stone chimney, a porch, windows with actual glass. It looked solid, real, safe. Cole helped her down. Her feet screamed when they touched ground. He steadied her. Easy, let's get those cleaned. The cabin door stood open. No lock. Inside was simple table, 2 chairs, bed in the corner, cast iron stove. Sunlight poured through those glass windows. Sit. Cole pointed to a chair. While Allora lowered herself onto worn wood, he fetched a basin and filled it from a pump outside. Set it on the floor. Knelt again, same as in the barn, head bowed, hands gentle. This'll sting. The water was cold and clean. When her feet touched it, Allora hissed but didn't pull away. Cole washed the blood and dirt with a soft cloth, careful around the worst blisters. No one had touched her like this, like she could feel pain, like it mattered in so long she'd forgotten it was possible. "You've done this before," she said. "Camp medic during the range wars. 2 years." He dried her feet with another cloth, then reached for a jar. "Salve, helps with healing." He applied it with the same care, then wrapped her feet in clean bandages. When he finished, he carried the basin outside. Allora sat alone looking around. Books on a shelf, actual books, not just a Bible. A rifle over the door, accessible but not threatening. A trunk in the corner with folded clothes visible through the half-open lid. Everything spoke of a man who lived simply but deliberately. Cole returned. Hungry. Allora's stomach answered before she could. "I'll make something." He moved to the stove, building a fire. "There's a room in back, just a closet with a cot. That's yours if you want. Or sleep out here. Or on the porch. Your choice." That word again. Allora watched him cook. Slicing bread, frying bacon, scrambling eggs. The smell made her mouth water. When he set the plate in front of her, she stared. Something wrong. "No one's ever cooked for me before. Not like this. Not without wanting something back." Cole sat across from her with his own plate. "I want something." Allora's stomach dropped. "Here it comes." "I want you to eat until you're full," Cole said. "I want you to sleep without being afraid. I want you to heal your feet, your body, whatever else needs it. That's what I want. Nothing more." Allora picked up her fork with shaking hands. The eggs were perfect. The bacon crisp. The bread fresh. She ate slowly at first, waiting for the catch. But Cole just ate his own meal quietly, not watching, not demanding, not asking for anything. When she finished, she set down her fork. "What happens now?" "Now you rest. Tomorrow, if your feet are better, I'll show you around. Creek down the hill for washing. Garden that needs tending. Firewood to split." He paused. "But only if you want. You're not obligated to work. You're not obligated to anything except heal. And if I want to leave, I'll take you wherever you want to go." His gray eyes met hers. "I meant what I said in the barn, Miss Callaway. You don't belong to me. You belong to yourself. I'm just offering you a place to remember what that feels like." Something cracked open in Allora's chest. Not hope. Hope was too dangerous. But something close. Possibility. "I need to ask you something." "Go ahead." "Why did you kneel? You could have just paid and walked away." Cole leaned back. "Because everyone else in that barn was standing above you. Looking down, judging, measuring your worth in coins. I needed you to know I saw you differently. Not as something below me, not as property. As a person who deserved to be met eye to eye. You barely knew me. Didn't need to know you deserved better than that auction block." He stood and carried their plates to the basin. "Get some rest. We can talk tomorrow. Or not talk. Either way." Allora rose on bandaged feet, testing them. They hurt but less. "Thank you. For the food. For everything." "You're welcome." She made her way to the small back room. Barely bigger than a closet, but it had a cot with a real mattress and a wool blanket. A window looked onto pine trees. More privacy than she'd had in years. Allora lay down fully clothed, too afraid to undress, even alone. Pulled the blanket to her chin. Her mind wouldn't quiet. She kept replaying Cole kneeling. The shock of it. The way the crowd went silent. The way he looked at her face, not her body. At her. Outside, she heard Cole moving. Washing dishes. Banking the fire. Normal sounds. Safe sounds. Sounds that meant someone was taking care of things. Allora closed her eyes. For the first time in 4 years, she cried. Not from fear or pain, but from the overwhelming strangeness of being treated like she mattered. In the main room, Cole heard soft weeping through thin walls. He stood still, hands frozen in dishwater. Every instinct said, go to her, comfort her. But he knew better. She needed to cry alone, needed to know she could fall apart without an audience. So he finished the dishes and made up his bedroll near the door, leaving the bed empty. If she woke in the night, she'd see him sleeping by the exit, not guarding her in, but guarding others out. Cole lay down and stared at ceiling beams. Sarah's face haunted him. The way she'd looked at 12 laughing in their kitchen. The way she'd looked at 15 being led away by a stranger, her eyes already dead. "I'm sorry I was too late for you, Sarah," he whispered. "But maybe I'm not too late for her." Outside, a twig snapped. Cole's hand moved to the rifle. In the back room, Allora's eyes opened in the dark. She'd heard it too, and she knew that sound, the sound of men who hunted. Footsteps on the porch, slow, deliberate. Allora sat up, heart hammering. Through the thin walls, she heard Cole rise silently. Heard the soft click of the rifle being cocked. The footsteps stopped at the door. Then a voice, rough familiar. The auctioneer. "I know you're in there, Jarrett, and I know you got my property." Cole didn't answer. "Here's how this works," the auctioneer continued. "You give me the girl, I forget this whole thing happened. You keep the girl, I come back with the sheriff and a bill of sale that says she's stolen goods." Silence. Allora's hands clenched the blanket. This was it. This was where Cole would realize she wasn't worth the trouble, where he'd open that door and hand her back to monsters. "You hear me, Jarrett?" Cole's voice came quiet through the door. "I hear you." "So what's it gonna be?" "It's gonna be this." Cole's voice hardened. "You've got 10 seconds to get off my property before I put a bullet through this door. After that, you can bring the sheriff, bring the whole damn town, bring whoever you want. But that girl in there? She's not property, not yours, not mine, not anyone's. And if you set foot on this land again, I'll make sure Sarah's grave has company." Silence stretched long and terrible. Then the footsteps retreated, faded, disappeared into the night. Allora sat in the dark shaking. Not from fear this time, from something else entirely. She rose on bandaged feet and walked to the doorway between the rooms. Cole stood by the door, rifle still in hand, staring out into the darkness. "You meant it," she whispered. "You really meant it." Cole turned. In the dim light from the dying fire, his face was carved from stone. Every word. "But why I'm nothing. I'm nobody. I'm just—" "You're Allora Callaway," Cole interrupted quietly. "And that's enough." Allora felt tears burn her eyes again, but this time they didn't feel like grief. They felt like something breaking open. Something that had been locked away so long she'd forgotten what it looked like. Freedom. "I don't know how to be free," she whispered. Cole set the rifle down. "Neither did I once. But we'll figure it out together. Together. If you want." He met her eyes. No obligations, no ownership, just two people trying to remember what it means to be human. Allora stood in that doorway, wrapped in a blanket that smelled like pine and smoke and safety. Outside, the night was full of shadows and threats, but inside, for the first time in 4 years, she felt something she'd thought was dead. Hope. "Okay," she whispered. "Together." Cole nodded once. "Get some rest. I'll keep watch." Allora returned to her cot, lay down, pulled the blanket close, and for the first time since she was 15 years old, she fell asleep without counting the knots in the floorboards. She fell asleep believing she might wake up. Morning came too fast. Allora woke to the smell of coffee and something else, bread baking. For a moment she forgot where she was. Then memory crashed back, the auction, the kneeling, the cabin, the footsteps in the night. She sat up too quickly. Pain shot through her feet. "Easy." Cole's voice came from the main room. "Your feet need another day before you try walking on them." Allora wrapped the blanket around herself and limped to the doorway. Cole stood at the stove, his back to her. Sunlight poured through the windows, turning everything gold. It felt like a lie, all this light after so much darkness. "Did he come back?" she asked. "The auctioneer?" "No." Cole turned, holding a tin cup. "Coffee." Allora nodded. He poured from the pot and handed it to her. Their fingers brushed. She flinched, hated herself for flinching. But Cole just stepped back, giving her space. "Sit," he said. "Bread's almost done." Allora lowered herself into a chair, wrapping both hands around the warm cup. The coffee was strong, bitter, real. She took a sip and felt it burn down her throat. "You didn't sleep," she said. "Slept enough." "You kept watch all night." Cole shrugged. "Habit. War does that to you." "Which war?" "All of them." He pulled the bread from the oven, golden brown, steaming. "Range wars. Territory disputes. Fights over water rights, land rights, cattle. Out here, war doesn't need a fancy name. It just needs men who want something and other men standing in the way." He cut 2 thick slices and brought them to the table with butter and honey. Allora stared at the food like it might disappear. "Eat," Cole said gently. "It's not a trick." But everything had been a trick before. Kindness was just cruelty waiting to reveal itself. Gentleness was just violence taking its time. Allora picked up the bread with shaking hands and took a small bite. It melted on her tongue. Sweet, warm, perfect. She took another bite, then another. Couldn't stop. Within minutes, both slices were gone. She looked up, embarrassed. "Want more?" Cole asked. "I don't want to take your food." "It's not mine. It's ours. Long as you're here, everything's ours." He cut 2 more slices. "Besides, I made extra. Had a feeling you might be hungry." Allora ate the second helping slower, trying to remember manners she'd forgotten. Cole ate his own breakfast across from her, not watching, not judging, just existing in the same space. When they finished, he cleared the plates. "I need to check the traps this morning. Rabbit for dinner if we're lucky. You can come if you want, or you can stay here. Door doesn't lock either way." "I'll come." The words surprised her, but the thought of being alone in the cabin waiting, wondering if men would come back, felt worse than walking on sore feet. Cole looked at her bandaged feet. "Can you walk?" "I can try." "Trying's not the same as can." "Let me see." He knelt, always kneeling, always meeting her eye level, and carefully unwrapped the bandages. The blisters looked better. Less angry. Still raw, but healing. "They need another day," he said. "But if you're set on coming, I've got an old pair of boots that might fit. Soft leather, won't rub as much." He disappeared into the back and returned with worn brown boots. Helped her slide them on. They were too big, but he stuffed the toes with cloth until they fit snug enough. "How's that?" "Better." Allora stood, testing her weight. Pain flared, but it was bearable. "I can manage." "All right, but we go slow. And if it hurts too much, you tell me. No shame in turning back." They stepped outside. The morning air was crisp, clean, tasting of pine and earth. Allora breathed deep, filling her lungs with something that wasn't barn dust or fear. The mountains rose around them, ancient, solid, indifferent to human suffering. She found that comforting somehow. The mountains didn't care who owned who. Cole led the way down a narrow trail. He moved quietly for a big man, stepping over roots and rocks without looking down. Allora followed, trying to match his pace. Her feet complained with each step, but she bit her lip and kept going. "You don't have to prove anything," Cole said without turning around. "I'm not." "You're limping." "I'm walking." He stopped and turned. There's a difference between walking and hurting yourself to avoid looking weak. Which one are you doing? Allora met his eyes. Does it matter? Yes. Why? Because one means you're healing, and the other means you're just trading one kind of pain for another. Cole's voice was firm, but not harsh. "I'm not your master, Allora. You don't have to perform strength for me." Something in her chest cracked wider. She looked away. "I don't know how to not perform. I've been performing for 4 years. Performing quiet. Performing obedient. Performing invisible. I don't remember what it's like to just be." Then stop performing. Right now. Tell me the truth. Do your feet hurt? Yes. Bad. Yes. Want to go back? Allora hesitated. Part of her wanted to say yes, wanted to retreat to the cabin's safety. But another part, smaller, newer, fragile, wanted to keep going. Wanted to prove to herself she could. I want to keep going, she said quietly. But slow, like you said. Cole nodded. Slow it is. They continued down the trail. Cole checked 3 traps, all empty. At the 4th, a rabbit hung limp, caught clean. He reset the trap with practiced hands, then slung the rabbit over his shoulder. Dinner, he said. They turned back. The climb up was harder. Allora's feet screamed. Sweat beaded on her forehead despite the cool air. Halfway up, she had to stop leaning against a tree. I'm sorry, she gasped. I thought I could. Nothing to apologize for. Cole set down the rabbit. You walked further than I expected. Hell, further than most people could on torn-up feet. But we're not back yet. So we rest. He sat down on a fallen log. World won't end if we take 10 minutes. Allora lowered herself next to him, grateful. They sat in silence. A bird called somewhere. Wind moved through pine needles. Normal sounds. Peaceful sounds. Can I ask you something? Allora said. Sure. Last night when the auctioneer came, you said you'd put a bullet through the door. Would you really have done that? Cole was quiet for a long moment. Honestly, I don't know. I've killed men before. War, self-defense. But killing someone over a threat in the dark. He shook his head. I'd like to think I wouldn't have to. That the threat would be enough. But if he'd tried to come through that door, tried to take you by force. He looked at her. Yeah, I would have stopped him. However I had to. Does that make you like them? The men who hurt people? I don't know. Maybe. That's the thing about violence. Once you use it, even for good reasons, you can't pretend you're not capable of it anymore. He picked up a pine cone, turned it over in his hands. My sister used to ask me that, after I came back from the wars. She said, how do you know you're still one of the good ones? And I told her, I don't. I just have to choose it every day and hope the choosing matters more than the capability. Did she believe you? No. Cole's voice went soft. She said I was trying too hard to be good, which meant I already knew I wasn't. She was probably right. Sarah was smart that way, could see through bullshit like glass. You loved her. Still do. Death doesn't stop that. Allora thought about that. About love outlasting death. About choosing to be good even when you weren't sure you were. About the difference between capability and action. I think you're good, she said quietly. Cole looked at her surprised. You don't know me. I know you knelt in a barn full of men who were standing. I know you didn't grab me. I know you kept watch all night so I could sleep. I know you're patient with my feet, even though I'm slowing you down. She paused. Maybe that's not enough to know everything, but it's enough to know something. Cole didn't answer, just nodded once like he was accepting something he couldn't quite believe. They sat a while longer, then continued up the trail. By the time they reached the cabin, Allora was exhausted. She collapsed into a chair while Cole started preparing the rabbit. You did good today, he said, skinning the animal with efficient movements. More than good. You pushed through when it hurt. That takes strength. It takes stupidity. Sometimes those are the same thing. He smiled, the first real smile she'd seen from him. It changed his whole face, made him look younger. Get some rest. I'll wake you when dinner's ready. Allora didn't argue. She limped to her small room and lay down. Within minutes, she was asleep. She woke to voices. Not Cole's voice. Someone else. A woman. Allora's heart jumped. She sat up, listening hard. Don't care what your reasons were, the woman was saying. You bought a girl at an auction, Cole. What the hell were you thinking? I was thinking she needed help. So you brought her here to your cabin alone. Do you have any idea how that looks? I know how it looks, Margaret, but I also know what would have happened if I hadn't. Allora crept to the doorway and peered out. A woman stood in the main room, tall, gray-haired, wearing a practical dress and an expression carved from stone. She had the look of someone who'd survived hard years by refusing to bend. What would have happened, Margaret said coldly, is that girl would have been someone else's problem, not yours. Someone else's problem. Cole's voice was flat. That's what my father said about Sarah. Let her be someone else's problem. You remember how that turned out? Margaret flinched. That's not fair. Neither is this conversation. Cole crossed his arms. Allora needed help. I gave it. End of story. It's not the end and you know it. Frank's already spreading rumors. Says you stole his merchandise. Says he's going to the sheriff. Let him. I paid fair. I've got witnesses. Witnesses who were drunk and won't remember their own names, let alone what happened at some auction. Margaret's voice softened slightly. I'm not trying to be cruel, Cole. I'm trying to keep you from making a mistake that'll follow you the rest of your life. This girl, her name is Allora. This Allora, Margaret corrected with deliberate emphasis, is going to bring trouble. The kind of trouble that ends with you losing this land or worse. You think the law will see you as a hero? They'll see a man who disrupted commerce, who threatened established business, who took property that wasn't his to take. She's not property. In the eyes of the law, she is. Until she's married or 21, someone owns her. That's how it works. Then the law's wrong. The law doesn't care if it's wrong. It just cares if it's broken. Allora couldn't listen anymore. She stepped into the doorway. Both of them turned to look at her. Margaret's expression shifted surprise, then something harder to read. Pity, maybe. Or calculation. You must be Allora, Margaret said. I am. I'm Margaret Hensley. I run the general store in town. Also serve as the closest thing to a doctor around here. She looked Allora up and down, not unkindly but thoroughly. How are your feet? Healing. Mind if I look Cole's good with field medicine, but infections can hide for days before they show. Allora glanced at Cole. He nodded slightly. She sat down and let Margaret unwrap the bandages. The older woman's hands were firm but gentle, probing the blisters with practiced efficiency. These are healing well, Margaret said, surprised. Clean. No infection. Good salve work. She rewrapped the bandages. You're lucky. Another day in those old boots and you would have lost toes. Cole fixed them. Cole has a habit of fixing things. Margaret stood and turned to face him. Which is why I'm here, to make sure this particular fix doesn't break him in the process. I appreciate the concern, Cole said, but I'm not asking your permission. I'm not offering permission. I'm offering help. Margaret's voice turned brisk, practical. Here's what we're going to do. Allora stays here fine, but she needs papers, something that says she's not stolen property, something that says she's here of her own free will. What kind of papers? Allora asked. A work contract. Indentured servitude technically, but with terms so favorable no one could claim ownership. You agree to work for Cole for 1 year in exchange for room board and a small wage. After 1 year, the contract expires and you're free to go wherever you want. It's legal. It's documented. And it means Frank can't claim you were stolen because you have a legitimate employment agreement. Cole frowned. That makes her sound like hired help. She is hired help. That's the point. Hired help has rights. Stolen property doesn't. Margaret looked at Allora. It's not perfect. It's not ideal. But it's protection. And out here, protection is worth more than pride. Alora's mind raced. A contract meant being bound again. Obligated. Owned, even if the ownership had a different name. But Margaret was right. Without papers, she was just stolen goods. Fair game for anyone with a claim. What would the work be? Allora asked. Whatever Cole needs, cooking, cleaning, garden work. But the contract would specify reasonable hours and conditions. No more than 10 hours a day. 1 day off per week, private sleeping quarters, and a clause that says either party can terminate the contract with 2 weeks' notice. That's more generous than most jobs in town, Cole said. That's the point. Make it so generous no one can claim exploitation. Margaret pulled out a folded paper from her pocket. I took the liberty of drawing it up. Both of you sign eyewitness, and it's legal. Cole took the paper and read it carefully. Then he handed it to Allora. Your choice. Allora scanned the words. They swam on the page, formal and binding. But beneath the legal language, she could see what Margaret was offering: a shield. A way to exist in a world that demanded people belong to someone. If I sign this, Allora said slowly, does it change anything between us? No, Cole said firmly. You're still free to leave whenever you want, contract or no contract. This is just paper to keep the bastards away. And if I don't sign, Margaret answered, then Frank will keep pushing. He'll get the sheriff involved. They'll claim your stolen property, and the law will side with whoever has the best documentation. Right now, Frank has a bill of sale. You have nothing. That's a fight you'll lose. Allora looked at the paper again, at the careful handwriting, at the terms that seemed almost too good, at the line where her name would go next to Cole's. Do you have a pen? She asked. Margaret produced one. Allora signed her name slowly, carefully. She hadn't written her own name in 4 years. The letters looked foreign, like they belonged to someone else. Cole signed next. Then Margaret witnessed adding her own signature with a flourish. There. Margaret folded the paper and tucked it away. I'll file this with the county recorder tomorrow. Until then, keep your heads down. Don't go into town. Let me handle Frank. How will you handle him? Cole asked. Same way I handle all bullies. With public shame and private threats. Margaret smiled grimly. Frank owes me money. Quite a bit of money. He seems to have forgotten that. Perhaps I'll help him remember. She turned to leave, then paused at the door. Allora. Yes. You ever need anything, medicine supplies, or just someone to talk to who isn't Cole? You come find me in town. My store's the big one with the red sign. Can't miss it. Why are you helping us? Allora asked. Margaret was quiet for a moment. Because Cole's brother saved my husband's life during the territory wars. Took a bullet meant for him. And because I had a daughter once who needed help and didn't get it. Her voice went hard. She died at 16. Childbirth. The father was 45 and already had a wife. So yes, I know what it's like when young girls become other people's problems. And I'll be damned if I watch it happen again when I have the power to stop it. She left without another word. Cole and Allora stood in silence. The contract felt like a weight between them, protective but also binding. You didn't have to sign, Cole said quietly. Yes, I did. She was right. Without papers, I'm just something for men to fight over. Allora looked at him. This way at least I'm fighting on your side instead of being the prize. You're not a prize. You're a person. Try telling that to Frank. Try telling that to the law. She sat down heavily. Margaret's right about something else too. This is going to bring trouble. Maybe you should have left me at that auction. Saved yourself the headache. No. You don't know that. You don't know what I'll cost you. Cole knelt, always kneeling, and looked her in the eye. Listen to me. Sarah cost my family nothing, and it still didn't save her. Sometimes the price isn't the problem. Sometimes the problem is thinking people have prices at all. He stood. You're here. You're safe. That's what matters. Everything else we'll figure out. Allora wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that safety could be that simple. But she'd learned the hard way that safety was temporary, and kindness always came with a bill. What if I mess up? She whispered. What if I can't do the work? What if I'm not worth the trouble? Then you mess up. Then you learn. Then you try again. Cole's voice was gentle. "You're not on trial here, Allora. You're not being tested. You're just living. And living means mistakes, means bad days, means sometimes you can't do what you thought you could. That's not failure. That's just being human." The words settled over her like a blanket, not fixing anything, not solving anything, just covering her in something warm enough to keep the cold at bay. "Okay," she said. "Okay what?" "Okay, I'll try. Try to live. Try to believe this is real. Try to stop waiting for the trap. That's all anyone can do." Cole moved back to the stove where the rabbit was roasting. "Now, how about we eat dinner and stop talking about contracts and trouble for one night?" They ate in comfortable silence. The rabbit was tender, seasoned with herbs from the garden. Allora ate slowly, savoring each bite. Across from her, Cole ate with the same quiet focus he brought to everything. After dinner, they sat on the porch. The sun was setting, painting the mountains gold and purple. Allora wrapped herself in a blanket and watched the light change. "It's beautiful here," she said. "It is." "Do you ever get lonely?" Cole considered. "Sometimes, but lonely's better than surrounded by the wrong people." "Is that why you live out here, to avoid the wrong people?" "Partly. Also because I'm not good at pretending. In town you have to pretend everything's fine. Pretend you don't see the ugliness. Pretend the law's fair and justice exists and people get what they deserve." He shook his head. "Out here I don't have to pretend. Trees don't care if I'm angry. Mountains don't care if I'm sad. I can just be whatever I am without explaining it." "What are you?" Allora asked. "Right now?" Cole thought for a long moment. "Tired, worried, a little bit hopeful." He looked at her. "What are you? Scared? Confused? Also a little bit hopeful." She pulled the blanket tighter. "Is that normal? Being scared and hopeful at the same time? I think that's the only way to be hopeful. If you're not scared, you're not paying attention." They sat in the gathering dark. Stars began appearing, more stars than Allora had ever seen. In town, lights drowned them out, but here they filled the sky like spilled salt. "I forgot there were this many stars," she whispered. "Easy to forget when you're not looking up." "I haven't looked up in 4 years. Didn't want to see what I was missing." She paused. "But maybe that was wrong. Maybe I should have kept looking, kept remembering there was more than just the barn and the auction block and the hands that hurt. You survived. That's what matters." "Did I? Or did I just stop dying for a while?" Cole didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was heavy. "I don't know. But I think survival is its own kind of living. Not the good kind. Not the kind anyone would choose. But still living. Still worth something." Allora thought about that. About survival as living. About the difference between existing and being alive. About whether she'd ever really been alive or just waiting to die in installments. "I want to be alive," she said quietly. "Really alive. Not just surviving." "Then stay alive. Right here. Right now." Cole gestured at the stars. "Look at them. Let yourself feel whatever you feel about them. Don't perform. Don't hide. Just be Allora Callaway looking at stars." So Allora looked. Really looked. Let herself feel the beauty of it, without guilt or fear or shame. Let herself exist in this moment, without calculating its cost. And for the first time in 4 years, she felt something besides fear. She felt wonder. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For reminding me I could look up." They sat together in the dark, watching stars wheel across the sky. Inside the cabin, the fire burned low. Outside, the mountains kept their ancient watch. And between them sat 2 people trying to remember what it meant to be human. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't safe. But for now, for tonight, it was enough. 3 weeks passed like water finding its level, slow, inevitable, reshaping everything it touched. Allora's feet healed. The blisters scabbed over, then disappeared, leaving only faint pink scars. She could walk without limping, now could stand at the stove for an hour without needing to sit, could carry water from the creek without her legs shaking. Her body was healing. Her mind was slower. She woke every morning expecting to find Cole changed, transformed overnight into the men she'd known before, the ones who smiled until they didn't, who were gentle until the door closed. But every morning, Cole was just Cole. Making coffee, splitting wood, fixing whatever needed fixing, never demanding, never taking, just existing in the same space with a patience that felt almost cruel in its consistency. "You're waiting for me to hit you," he said one morning. Allora froze hands deep in bread dough. "What? You flinch every time I move too fast. You watch my hands when I pick up tools. You position yourself near exits." Cole didn't look up from the harness he was mending. "You're waiting for the hit that's coming. I can see it." Alora's throat tightened. "I don't mean to." "I know. That's why I'm telling you it's not coming. Not from me. Not ever." He set down the leather. "But knowing something and believing it are different. So take your time. Flinch if you need to. Watch my hands if it makes you feel safer. I'm not offended." "You should be." "Why? Because trauma makes you cautious." "That's not an insult, Allora. That's survival." He picked up the harness again. "My first year back from the war, I couldn't sleep in beds. Too soft. Too vulnerable. I slept on floors near doors with a knife under my pillow. Took me 2 years to trust that I wasn't going to wake up with a blade at my throat." He paused. "So no, I'm not offended that you flinch. I'm just letting you know the hit isn't coming, so maybe eventually your body can stop bracing for it." Allora turned back to the dough, kneading harder than necessary. "What if it never stops? What if I'm always like this?" "Then you're always like this. Doesn't make you broken. Just makes you someone who learned to protect yourself." "I don't want to be someone who needs protecting. Nobody wants to be. But sometimes we are, and pretending otherwise just gets us hurt worse." Cole stood and walked to the door. "I'm going to check the fences. You want to come or stay?" "Stay." The word came automatically. Then Allora surprised herself by adding, "But maybe tomorrow I'll come." Cole smiled, that rare, genuine smile that changed his whole face. "Tomorrow's good." He left. Allora finished the bread and set it to rise, then stood at the window watching him work. He moved with economy, no wasted motion, fixing a broken rail, with the same focused attention he brought to everything. She realized she was studying him the way she'd once studied her captors, looking for patterns, for triggers, for the moment when kindness would curdle into cruelty. But 3 weeks in the pattern was just more kindness. More patience. More space given freely without cost. It terrified her more than violence ever had. That afternoon, Margaret arrived with supplies, flour, sugar, coffee, and a bolt of blue fabric. "For you," Margaret said, pressing the fabric into Alora's hands. "You've been wearing the same dress for weeks. Time for something new." Allora stared at the cloth. It was soft quality weave, the color of summer sky. "I can't pay for this." "It's not for sale. It's a gift." "I don't take gifts." "Well, you do now." Margaret's voice was brisk, but not unkind. "Consider it part of your wages. Can't have Cole's employee looking like she crawled out of a ditch. Bad for his reputation." "I did crawl out of a ditch. And now you're crawling into something better. So take the damn fabric and make yourself a dress." Margaret turned to Cole. "How's she doing, really?" Cole glanced at Allora, asking silent permission. She nodded. "Better. Stronger. Still jumpy, but that's to be expected." He lowered his voice. "She doesn't trust it yet. Any of it. Keeps waiting for the trap." "Smart girl." Margaret unpacked the rest of the supplies. "Frank's been quiet. Too quiet. I don't trust it." "What's he planning?" "Don't know yet, but he's been talking to the sheriff. And he's been asking questions about you, how long you've been here, whether you have family, whether anyone would notice if something happened to you. Margaret's expression hardened. I'm not saying he'll try something, but I'm not saying he won't. Allora felt ice flood her veins. He wants me back. He wants to win. You're just the method. Margaret looked at her directly. Listen to me, girl. Men like Frank don't care about you. They care about being right, about not being embarrassed, about proving they can't be beaten. You could be a horse or a piece of land or a bag of coins, doesn't matter. What matters is, Cole took something Frank thinks belongs to him. So what do? Cole asked. You keep doing what you're doing. Keep her here. Keep her safe. Keep good records of the work contract. Margaret paused. And you teach her to shoot. Allora's head snapped up. What? You heard me. Teach her to shoot. To defend herself. Because if Frank comes and Cole's not here, she needs to be able to protect herself. I don't want a gun, Allora said quickly. I don't care what you want. I care about what you need. Margaret's voice was iron. You think being unarmed makes you innocent, makes you safe? It doesn't. It just makes you a victim waiting to happen again. Margaret, Cole started. No, don't coddle her. She's not a child. Margaret looked at Allora hard. You want to be free, really free, then you need to be able to defend that freedom. Otherwise, you're just waiting for someone else to take it away again. Allora's hands clenched around the blue fabric. I've never shot a gun. Then you'll learn. Cole's a good teacher. Margaret softened slightly. Look, I'm not saying you have to like it. I'm not saying you have to become some gunslinger. But you should know how, just in case. After Margaret left, Allora and Cole stood in uncomfortable silence. She's not wrong, Cole said finally. I know. But we don't have to do it today, or tomorrow, or ever if you really don't want to. No. Allora set down the fabric. She's right. I should learn. I'm just... She trailed off. Scared? Tired of being scared. Which is different. She met his eyes. Teach me. Cole studied her face, looking for doubt. Finding only determination, he nodded. All right, but we start small, just holding it. Getting used to the weight, no shooting until you're ready. He retrieved the rifle from above the door and brought it to the table. Allora stared at it like it might bite. It's just metal and wood, Cole said gently. No different from a hammer or an axe. Just a tool. A tool that kills. A tool that can kill. Can also put food on the table. Can also keep bad men from doing bad things. He picked it up, showing her the mechanics. This is the barrel. This is the trigger. This is the safety. When the safety's on, it can't fire. Like this. He demonstrated, then held the rifle out to her. Allora's hands shook as she took it. The weight surprised her, heavier than she expected, solid and real. How does it feel? Cole asked. Dangerous. Good. It should. Anything that can protect you can also hurt you if you're not careful. That's the balance. He adjusted her grip. But right now, with the safety on, it's just wait. Get used to that first. Allora held the rifle, feeling its heft. Her mind flooded with images. Men with guns. Men using guns. Men who thought power came from metal and bullets. She'd always been on the receiving end of that power. The thought of holding it herself felt wrong. Corrupting. I don't want to be like them, she whispered. Cole understood immediately. You won't be, because you're not learning to hunt people. You're learning to protect yourself. There's a difference. Is there? A bullet doesn't know the difference. No, but you do, and that's what matters. He took the rifle back. That's enough for today. We'll try again tomorrow, and the day after, until it feels less like holding death and more like holding possibility. That night, Allora lay awake staring at the ceiling. The rifle haunted her thoughts. The weight of it. The potential of it. The idea that she could point something at another human being and end them. She thought about the men who'd hurt her. Could she shoot them if they came through that door? Would pulling that trigger make her free? Or just make her a different kind of prisoner? One who'd have to live with blood on her hands. In the main room, Cole sat by the fire thinking similar thoughts. He'd taught men to shoot before. Soldiers, ranch hands, boys who wanted to prove themselves. But teaching Allora felt different, heavier, because he wasn't just teaching her a skill. He was teaching her that the world required violence sometimes, that safety had teeth, that freedom came with the weight of its own defense. He wondered if he was helping her or just making her more like the world that had broken her. The next morning they tried again, and the morning after. By the end of the week, Allora could hold the rifle without shaking, could check the safety load and unload, understand the mechanics without fear turning her hands clumsy. "Ready to shoot?" Cole asked. "No, but teach me anyway." They walked to a clearing behind the cabin. Cole set up Target's old cans on a fallen log, showed her how to stand, how to breathe, how to sight down the barrel. "The kick will surprise you," he warned. "Don't fight it. Let it happen. Your shoulder will bruise. That's normal." Allora raised the rifle, pressed it against her shoulder, squinted down the sight. Her heart hammered. Her hands trembled. "Breathe," Cole said quietly. "In. Out. On the exhale, squeeze. Don't pull the trigger." She breathed in. Out. Squeezed. The rifle kicked hard. The sound cracked across the clearing. The bullet went wide, hitting dirt 5 feet from the target. Allora lowered the rifle, ears ringing, shoulder already aching. "Again," Cole said. She shot again, and again, and again. By the 10th shot, her shoulder was screaming and her aim was worse, not better. Frustration boiled up inside her. "I can't do this." "You can. You're just tired." Cole took the rifle. "That's enough for today." "But I didn't hit anything." "You held the rifle. You pulled the trigger. You didn't give up. That's hitting something." He smiled. "Rome wasn't built in a day, and marksmen aren't made in one either." They walked back to the cabin. Allora's shoulder throbbed. But beneath the pain was something else, a tiny spark of pride. She'd held the gun. She'd fired it. She hadn't frozen, hadn't run, hadn't let fear stop her. It wasn't much, but it was hers. Over the next 2 weeks, Allora practiced every morning. Her shoulder developed a permanent bruise. Her hands grew calloused from the rifle's grip. And slowly, impossibly, she started hitting the targets. Not every time. Not even most times, but enough that she began to believe she could do this, could defend herself if she had to. "You're a natural," Cole said one morning after she hit 3 cans in a row. "I'm adequate." Adequate keeps you alive. That's all that matters. But Allora wanted more than adequate. She wanted excellent. Wanted to be so good that no man would ever think of her as easy prey again. So she practiced until her arms shook, until sweat dripped into her eyes, until Cole had to physically take the rifle from her hands and tell her to rest. "You're punishing yourself," he said. "This isn't practice anymore. It's penance." For what? For being taken, for being sold, for being helpless. Cole's voice was gentle but firm. "But you weren't helpless, Allora. You were overpowered. There's a difference. And shooting a rifle doesn't change what happened. It just changes what might happen next." Allora sank onto the porch steps, exhausted. "I need to know I could stop them. If they came back. If Frank came back. If anyone came back. I need to know I wouldn't just freeze." "You won't know that until it happens. None of us do." Cole sat beside her. "I've trained soldiers who were excellent shots on the range but couldn't pull the trigger when facing another human. And I've seen farmers with no training at all defend their families like lions. Practice helps. But when the moment comes, you won't know what you'll do until you do it." "That's terrifying." "Yes, Cole handed her a canteen. But it's also freeing. Because it means you're not defined by what you might do. Only by what you actually do when the time comes. They sat in silence, passing the canteen back and forth. Allora's mind wandered to the blue fabric Margaret had given her. It still sat folded on her cot, untouched. She'd been afraid to cut it, afraid to ruin it, afraid to make something beautiful only to have it destroyed. "Will you help me make the dress?" she asked suddenly. Cole blinked, surprised by the subject change. "I don't know much about sewing." "Neither do I. Not really. I can do basic mending, but an actual dress?" She shook her head. "My mother tried to teach me once, before she died. But I was too young to pay attention, thought I'd have all the time in the world to learn." "How old were you when she died?" 7. Fever took her in 3 days. Allora's voice went distant. "My father changed after that. Became harder, meaner. Started seeing me and my brother as burdens instead of children. By the time I was 15, he'd had enough of feeding burdens." "Where's your brother now?" "Don't know. He ran away when I was 13. Smart kid. Got out before father could sell him too." She smiled without humor. "I used to be angry at him for leaving me, but now I'm just glad one of us escaped." Cole was quiet for a moment. "You escaped too. You're here." "Am I, or am I just in a different kind of cage? One with better food and a kinder warden, but still a cage." "Is that what you think this is?" Allora looked at him, really looked, at the lines around his eyes that spoke of hard years and harder choices, at the scars on his hands from work and war, at the patience in his expression that never seemed to run out no matter how much she tested it. "I don't know what this is," she admitted. "I don't know if I'm free or just owned by someone gentler. I don't know if I'm healing or just pretending to heal so you don't regret buying me. I don't know if I'm Allora Callaway or just some broken thing you're trying to fix out of guilt about your sister." Cole flinched. The words had hit something true. "You want honesty," he said finally. "Here's honesty. Yes, you remind me of Sarah. Yes, part of why I bought you was guilt, was trying to save someone I couldn't save before. But that's how it started. That's not what this is now." "Then what is it now?" "Now," Cole met her eyes. "Now you're just Allora. Not a symbol, not a second chance, not a way to absolve my past. Just a person who lives in my cabin and makes bread better than I ever could and is learning to shoot and who looks at stars like they're miracles. That's who you are to me now. And if that's a cage, then I'm in it with you. Because I like who I am when you're around. I like being someone who keeps his promises, who doesn't give up when things get hard, who remembers there's more to life than survival." Allora felt tears burn her eyes. "I don't know how to believe you." "Then don't. Not yet. Just stay. Keep making bread, keep shooting cans, keep looking at stars, and maybe eventually belief will catch up with presence." She wiped her eyes roughly. "You're too patient. It's unnatural." Cole laughed a real laugh, rare and wonderful. "My sister used to say that too. Said I had the patience of a saint and the stubbornness of a mule. She said it was a dangerous combination because I'd wait forever for something I wanted and never give up even when I should." "What did you want back then?" "Same thing I want now. For people to be safe. For the world to be a little less cruel. For someone to choose kindness when violence would be easier." He stood and offered his hand. "Come on, let's make that dress. Between the two of us we might figure it out." They spread the blue fabric on the table. Cole found paper and charcoal, and together they sketched a simple pattern. Nothing fancy, just a practical dress with long sleeves and a high collar. Allora cut carefully, terrified of wasting even an inch. Cole pinned while she sewed, his large hands surprisingly deft with the small pins. "You're good at this," Allora said, surprised. "Field medicine teaches you to sew. People aren't that different from fabric, just bloodier and more likely to complain." They worked through the afternoon, The dress took shape slowly, uneven in places, crooked in others, but recognizably a dress. When Allora finally held it up, she felt something swell in her chest. Pride, accomplishment, the simple joy of creating something instead of just surviving. "Try it on," Cole said. Allora retreated to her small room and changed. The dress fit imperfectly, too loose in some places, too tight in others, but it was hers. She'd made it. With her own hands. From fabric given freely. In a cabin where no one demanded anything she wasn't willing to give. She stepped out. Cole looked up from cleaning up the scraps and went still. "How do I look?" Allora asked, suddenly shy. "Like someone who's starting to remember who she is," Cole said quietly. That night, wearing her new dress, Allora stood on the porch and looked at the stars. Cole joined her, bringing coffee in tin cups. "Thank you," she said, "for the dress, for the shooting lessons, for the patience, for everything. You don't have to thank me." "I know, but I want to." She turned to face him. "You asked me what I think this is. What we are. And I said I don't know. That's still true. But I'm starting to think maybe I don't need to know. Maybe I can just be here. Just be Allora, learning to shoot, and making bread, and wearing blue dresses, and looking at stars. Maybe that's enough." "It's more than enough," Cole said. "It's everything." They stood in comfortable silence, sipping coffee, watching the night. Inside the cabin, the fire burned steady. Outside, the mountains kept their watch. And between them stood two people learning that freedom wasn't a destination. It was a practice. A choice made every day. A slow accumulation of small moments where safety felt real and kindness didn't cost anything except the courage to accept it. Allora still flinched sometimes, still watched Cole's hands, still positioned herself near exits. But now she also laughed occasionally. Also made plans for tomorrow. Also believed just a little bit that tomorrow might actually come. It wasn't healing, not yet. But it was the beginning of healing, and beginnings. Allora was learning were their own kind of miracle. "Cole," she said quietly. "Yeah. If they come, Frank or whoever, and you're not here, and I have to shoot." She paused. "Will you still think I'm good after?" Cole set down his cup and looked at her directly. "If you have to shoot someone to protect yourself, that doesn't make you bad. It makes you someone who chose to live. And yes, I'll still think you're good. Because goodness isn't about never using violence. It's about only using it when everything else has failed. And if I miss, if I'm not fast enough or good enough, then I'll wish I'd trained you better. I'll wish I'd been there. I'll wish a lot of things. But I won't wish you'd just let them take you. You understand, fighting and losing is still better than not fighting at all." Allora nodded slowly. Okay. Okay. Okay, I believe you. Or at least I'm trying to. That's all anyone can do. Try. And keep trying, and hope that trying is enough. They finished their coffee in silence. When Allora finally went to bed, she lay in her blue dress, too tired to change. She fell asleep thinking about tomorrow's target practice, about the bread she'd make in the morning, about the way Cole's hands had been so careful with the pins. She fell asleep believing tomorrow might come. And for the first time in 4 years, she wanted it to. 2 months in winter arrived early. Snow fell overnight, transforming the world into something clean and unfamiliar. Allora woke to silence, that particular quiet that only snow could make, muffling everything, until even breathing felt too loud. She rose and wrapped the blue dress tight around herself, then pulled on the wool coat Cole had given her last week. It was 2 big sleeves hanging past her hands, but it was warm. She stepped into the main room and found Cole already up, standing at the window. "First snow," he said without turning around. "I know. We'll need to bring in more firewood. Check the food stores. Make sure the roof's sealed tight." He spoke in lists, practical and focused. "Storm's coming. A bad one if I'm reading the sky right." "How can you tell?" "The wind, the color of the clouds. the way the animals went quiet yesterday. He finally turned to look at her. We've got maybe 2 days before it hits hard. After that, we'll be snowed in for a week, maybe longer. Something cold settled in Allora's stomach. Snowed in. Trail gets impassable. Town's too far to reach on foot. We'll have enough supplies, but we'll be alone. He paused. Just us. No Margaret. No visitors. No way out if something goes wrong. Allora heard what he wasn't saying. No escape if she needed one. No witnesses if things changed. No help if Cole turned into someone different when the snow made them prisoners together. You're scared, Cole said. I'm cautious. Same thing with better marketing. He moved to the stove and started coffee. I get it. Being trapped here with me, that's asking a lot of trust you don't have yet. It's not that I don't trust you. It's exactly that. And that's fine. Smart even. Cole poured 2 cups. So here's what we'll do. You'll keep the rifle in your room. Loaded. Safety on, but loaded. You'll keep your door shut if you want. You'll have your own space. And if at any point you feel unsafe, you take that rifle and you make me leave. You understand? Leave to where you said the trail's impassable. Barn's got a stove. I'll survive. He handed her the coffee. Point is, you're not trapped. Even snowed in, you've got options. You've got the rifle. You've got the cabin. I'm the one who'll leave if things get uncomfortable, not you. Allora took the cup, hands wrapped tight around the warmth. You'd really sleep in the barn. I've slept in worse. War teaches you that anywhere with a roof is luxury. He smiled slightly. Besides, I meant what I said. This is your home too. Has been since you signed that contract. Maybe before. You don't get kicked out into the cold because I make you nervous. But it's your cabin. It's our cabin. There's a difference. Allora sipped her coffee, thinking. The idea of being snowed in terrified her. But Cole's willingness to sleep in the barn if she asked that meant something. Meant he understood. Meant he wasn't offended by her fear, just accepting of it. Okay, she said finally. But I want to help prepare. I want to know we have enough food, enough wood, enough everything. I don't want to just trust you that we do. I want to see it myself. Fair enough. Finish your coffee and we'll start. They spent the next 2 days in constant motion, chopping wood until Allora's arms screamed, hauling water from the creek before it froze solid, checking the smokehouse, counting the salted meat and dried vegetables. Cole showed her everything, where supplies were stored, how much they had, how to ration if they needed to stretch it. This enough for 2 months, he said, gesturing at the stocked shelves. More if we're careful. 2 months. You said a week. I said a week for this storm, but winter up here can trap you longer. Better to have too much than not enough. He handed her a ledger. Keep track of what we use. That way we'll always know where we stand. Allora took the ledger, surprised. You want me to manage the supplies? I want you to know we're partners in this. That includes knowing where the food is, how much we have when we need to ration. He met her eyes. You're not a guest here anymore, Allora. You're not someone I'm taking care of. You're someone I live with. And people who live together share responsibilities. The words settled over her like the snow outside, quiet but transformative. Partner. Not property. Not charity case. Partner. All right, she said. I'll manage the supplies. The storm hit on the 3rd night. Wind howled around the cabin like something alive and angry. Snow fell so thick, Allora couldn't see the barn from the window. Cole sealed the shutters and built up the fire until the main room glowed warm. Nothing to do now but wait, he said. They ate dinner in companionable silence. Allora had made stew from dried venison and vegetables thick and filling. Cole ate 3 bowls and complimented each one, after they sat by the fire. Cole carved something from wood, she couldn't tell what yet. Allora mended his spare shirt, the needle moving in and out with practiced rhythm. Can I ask you something? Allora said after a while. Always. Why don't you ever ask me about it? About what happened before the auction, about who hurt me, about why I was there. Cole's knife paused mid-stroke. Because it's yours to tell or not tell, and because knowing the details doesn't change how I treat you. Doesn't curiosity count for something? Curiosity doesn't give me rights to your pain. He resumed carving. If you want to tell me someday, I'll listen. If you never want to tell me, that's fine too. Your past is yours. I'm just interested in your present. Allora set down the mending. What if my past makes you see me differently? How would it do that? What if I wasn't innocent? What if I deserved some of what happened? Cole looked up sharply. No one deserves to be sold like cattle. No one. But what if I was difficult? What if I made them angry? What if... Stop! Cole's voice was firm. Listen to me. There is nothing you could have done that would justify what happened to you. Being difficult isn't a crime. Making people angry isn't a crime. Existing in a way that inconveniences others isn't a crime. And even if you'd committed actual crimes, being sold at auction still wouldn't be justice. You don't know what I did. Don't need to know. Whatever it was, it didn't deserve that. Allora felt tears burn her eyes. I fought back once, when I was 16. One of the men who bought me tried to... She stopped, swallowed. I hit him with a fire poker, broke his arm. They beat me unconscious for it. Kept me locked in a cellar for 2 weeks. When I came out, I was different, quieter, more obedient. They said I'd learned my lesson. Cole set down the carving. You survived. That's what you learned. I learned to stop fighting. You learned to choose your battles. That's not the same as giving up. He leaned forward. You hit him with a fire poker. You defended yourself. That took courage. What happened after that wasn't your fault. That was them trying to break you for daring to fight back. They did break me. No, they didn't. Because you're here. You're learning to shoot. You're making bread and managing supplies and arguing with me about whether you deserve to be beaten. He smiled sadly. Broken people don't do those things. Broken people give up. You're not giving up. You're just tired of fighting alone. Allora wiped her eyes roughly. Why do you always know what to say? I don't. I just say what I think is true and hope it's helpful. He picked up the carving again. And for what it's worth, I'm glad you hit him with that fire poker. Wish you'd hit him harder. Despite everything, Allora laughed. It was small, watery, but real. You're terrible. I'm honest. They sat in silence again, but it felt different now. Lighter. Like something heavy had been acknowledged and set down. Outside, the storm raged on. But inside, the fire burned steady and warm. Allora finished mending the shirt and started on a sock that needed darning. Cole finished his carving, a small bird wings spread like it was about to take flight. He held it up to the light, checking the details. For you, he said, handing it to her. Allora took it carefully. The bird was beautiful, every feather carved with delicate precision. Why a bird? Because you're learning to fly. Thought you should have a reminder that wings exist even when you can't feel them yet. Allora traced the wooden wings with her finger. Thank you. You're welcome. That night, Allora went to bed holding the bird. She placed it on the small shelf by her cot next to the blue fabric scraps she'd saved from the dress. Outside, wind howled and snow fell, and the world disappeared under white. But Allora felt safe. Maybe not completely, maybe not forever. But right now, in this moment, she felt safe enough to sleep without fear. The storm lasted 5 days. 5 days of being trapped inside with only each other for company. Allora braced for tension, for cabin fever, for Cole to reveal some hidden frustration with her presence. But instead, they fell into an easy rhythm. He cooked breakfast. She made lunch. They prepared dinner together. Between meals, they worked on separate projects, Cole maintaining tools and equipment. Allora organizing supplies and practicing her stitching. In the evenings they talked. About everything and nothing. Cole told her about the war, about friends he'd lost, about the strange beauty of battlefields at dawn. Allora told him about her mother, about her brother, about the river she'd seen as a child, and had never forgotten. "What was her name?" Cole asked. "Your mother." "Catherine. Everyone called her Kathy." Allora smiled at the memory. She used to sing while she worked. Old songs from her childhood in Pennsylvania. "I don't remember most of them anymore. Just fragments." "Sing one for me." "I can't sing." "Then hum it. Or just say the words. Doesn't matter." Allora closed her eyes, reaching back through years of silence to find her mother's voice. Then, hesitantly, she began to hum. The melody was simple, sweet, tinged with melancholy. After a few bars, words came back to her. "Oh, the water is wide, I cannot cross over, and neither have I wings to fly. Give me a boat that can carry two, and both shall row my love and I." Her voice cracked on the last line. She stopped, embarrassed. "That's beautiful," Cole said quietly. "My mother sang it better." "I'm sure she did, but you sang it with her memory. That's its own kind of beautiful." Allora opened her eyes. Cole was watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Not pity, not desire. Something else. Something that looked like respect. "She would have liked you," Allora said. "My mother. She always said the measure of a man was how he treated people who couldn't help him. You would have passed her test." "What about your father?" "He would have hated you, would have seen your kindness as weakness, would have thought you were a fool for buying me just to set me free." She paused. "I used to think he was right, thought kindness was weakness, but now I think maybe kindness is just strength that doesn't need to prove itself." "Your mother taught you that." "You did." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. Cole looked away first, clearing his throat. "We should check the fire before bed," he said. "Make sure it'll last the night." They tended the fire together, banking the coals, adding logs carefully. Allora felt the weight of what she'd said, the intimacy of it. She'd admitted something without meaning to, that Cole had changed her, had taught her something she'd thought was lost. As she prepared for bed, she heard him settling by the door as always. Not in the bed. Always on the floor near the exit, giving her the cabin's only comfort, keeping himself between her and any threat that might come through that door. "Cole?" she called softly. "Yeah." "Why don't you sleep in the bed? I'm fine on the cot." "Bed's yours." "But you're bigger. You need it more." "I'm also trained to sleep anywhere. You're still learning to sleep at all." His voice was gentle. "Let me have this, Allora. Let me give you the bed." She didn't argue. Somehow she understood that this was important to him. A way of showing care that he could control. A gift he could give without asking anything in return. "Good night, Cole." "Good night." On the 6th day, the storm broke. Sunlight poured through the shutters, bright and almost painful after days of gray. Cole opened the door to find snow piled 4 feet high against the cabin. They'd have to dig out, carve a path to the barn, check on the animals. "Looks like we're staying in a bit longer," Cole said. But he was smiling. And Allora realized she was smiling too. Because being snowed in hadn't been the nightmare she'd feared. It had been something else entirely. Something that felt almost like home. They spent the morning digging out. The work was hard, physical, exhausting. Allora's muscles burned. Sweat froze on her forehead. But she kept going, shoveling snow until they'd carved a tunnel from the cabin to the barn. Inside the barn, Cole's horse nickered a greeting. They'd kept him fed through the storm, bringing hay and water daily. But now, Cole checked him over thoroughly, making sure the cold hadn't caused any problems. "He's fine," Cole announced. "Better than fine. This boy could survive anything." "Like his owner," Allora said. Cole glanced at her, surprised. "I'm not that tough." "You slept on the floor for 2 months. You gave up your bed. You keep watch at night. You survive on less food than you give me. You're tougher than you think." That's not tough. That's just... He stopped, searching for words. That's just being decent. Decent is tough when the world wants you to be cruel. Cole didn't answer, just finished checking the horse and led Allora back to the cabin. They were halfway there when she saw it footprints in the snow. Fresh footprints, leading right up to their door. Cole saw them the same instant. His hand moved to his hip where his revolver sat. "Get behind me," he said quietly. "Who? Behind me. Now." Allora obeyed, heart hammering. Cole approached the cabin carefully, gun-drawn eyes scanning for threats. The footprints went up to the door, then circled the cabin, then disappeared back into the trees. "Someone was here," Cole said. "During the storm or just after." "Frank?" "Maybe. Or someone Frank sent." He checked the door, still locked, no signs of forced entry. "They didn't get in, just looked around." "Why?" "Checking if we survived the storm. Seeing if we're vulnerable." Cole's voice was grim. "Or sending a message that they know where we are and can reach us anytime they want." Fear flooded Allora's veins. "What do? We stay alert. We keep the rifle close. We don't go anywhere alone." Cole looked at her directly. "And we prepare for the possibility that Frank's patience has run out." That night, neither of them slept well. Allora lay in her cot, the rifle loaded beside her, listening to every sound. Cole sat by the fire gun in his lap, watching the door. The carved bird on Allora's shelf seemed to mock her now. Wings to fly, but nowhere to fly to with snow trapping them here. Morning came gray and cold. Cole made breakfast, but neither of them ate much. The cabin felt different now. Less safe. More like a trap waiting to spring. "I want to check the perimeter," Cole said. "See if there are more tracks. See if they came back during the night." "I'm coming with you." "Allora?" "I'm coming. You said we don't go anywhere alone. That includes you." Cole studied her face, then nodded. "Bring the rifle." They dressed warmly and stepped outside. The morning was crystalline beautiful and utterly silent. They circled the cabin slowly, looking for new tracks. Found none. But the old tracks were still there, a reminder that their isolation wasn't protection. Just distance. "Could be nothing," Cole said, but he didn't sound convinced. "Could be someone lost in the storm looking for shelter." "Do you believe that?" "No." They returned to the cabin. Cole checked the locks, reinforced the shutters, made sure ammunition was loaded and ready. Allora watched him transform from patient teacher to soldier, all efficiency and cold preparation. "You've done this before," she said. "Prepared for attack." "Yeah." Cole loaded the rifle and set it by the door. "Too many times." "Does it get easier?" "No, you just get better at functioning through the fear." That became their new normal. Vigilance. Every sound investigated. Every shadow checked. Cole taught Allora watch rotations, how to stay alert, what to look for. She learned quickly, driven by fear, but also by determination. She would not be helpless. Not again. A week passed. Then, 2. No new tracks appeared. No attacks came. The snow began to melt, revealing brown earth and dead grass. The trail to town became passable again. But neither Cole nor Allora suggested going. Town meant exposure. Town meant Frank. Then Margaret arrived. She rode up on a sturdy mare, her face grim. Cole had the rifle in his hands before she'd dismounted. "It's just me," Margaret called out. "Put the gun down." Cole lowered the rifle but didn't set it aside. "What's wrong?" Margaret tied her horse and walked to the porch. Her expression was carved from stone. "Frank's been talking, spreading stories. Says you stole his property. Says you're keeping Allora against her will. Says he's got witnesses who'll testify you threatened him with violence." "That's a lie," Allora said, stepping forward. "Cole never threatened him. Frank's the one who—" "I know it's a lie. You know it's a lie. But Frank's got money and friends and a story that sounds believable to people who want to believe it. Margaret looked at Cole. The sheriff's coming. Tomorrow or the day after. He's going to want to see Allora. Going to want to verify she's here willingly. Going to want to see that work contract. We have the contract, Cole said. I know, but Frank's claiming it's forged. That you forced her to sign it. Margaret's voice was heavy. This is going to get ugly, Cole. Frank's playing for keeps now. He's not just trying to get Allora back. He's trying to destroy you in the process. Allora felt ice in her stomach. Why does he care this much? Because you made him look like a fool, Margaret said bluntly. Because Cole embarrassed him in front of the whole town. Because men like Frank can't stand losing, especially to men like Cole, who make them look small just by being decent. So what do we do? Cole asked. You let the sheriff come. You show him the contract. You let Allora speak for herself. And you pray that truth matters more than money. Margaret paused. But Cole, you need to be prepared for the possibility that it doesn't. What does that mean? It means Frank has the sheriff in his pocket. It means the law might side with commerce over justice. It means you might have to choose between fighting the law or letting Allora go. Margaret's eyes were hard. And if it comes to that, you need to decide now which choice you can live with. Cole and Allora stood in silence after Margaret left. The weight of her words pressed down like the snow had heavy, suffocating, inescapable. I won't let them take you, Cole said finally. You might not have a choice. There's always a choice. What if the choice is between your freedom and mine? What if fighting for me means losing everything you have? Allora's voice shook. I won't let you destroy yourself for me. Too late. I made my choice the moment I knelt in that barn. Cole turned to face her. You're not going back. Not to Frank. Not to anyone. Whatever happens with the sheriff, whatever price I have to pay, you're staying free. That's not negotiable. Cole. No. Listen to me. I've spent 10 years regretting what I couldn't do for Sarah. 10 years wishing I'd been braver, stronger, willing to pay whatever price was necessary to save her. I'm not doing that again. I'm not standing by while someone takes you because it's easier or safer or legal. I'm done choosing comfort over what's right. Allora felt tears stream down her face. What if what's right gets you killed? Then I die knowing I fought for something that mattered. That's more than most people get. She closed the distance between them and for the first time touched him deliberately, her hand on his arm feeling the solid strength of him. You matter too, she whispered. Your life matters, not just mine. Cole covered her hand with his own. Then we'll make sure we both survive. Together. How? I don't know yet, but we've got until tomorrow to figure it out. He squeezed her hand gently, then let go. Come on, let's make a plan. Because if the sheriff's coming, we better be ready to prove that freedom is worth more than 3 silver coins. They spent that night preparing like soldiers before battle. Cole cleaned both rifles and his revolvers, checking each mechanism with methodical precision. Allora organized the contract, and every scrap of documentation they had supply receipts with her handwriting, the ledger showing her managing inventory, even the pattern paper from the dress with both their marks on it. Anything to prove she was here willingly working freely, living as a partner rather than property. What if none of it matters? Allora asked as dawn approached. What if the sheriff just takes me anyway? Cole looked up from loading ammunition. Then I'll follow. I'll find a lawyer. I'll fight it through every court in the territory if I have to. You don't have that kind of money? I'll get it. I'll sell the land, sell everything. Money's just paper, Allora. You're a person. She set down the papers and walked to where he sat. You can't save everyone. Your sister taught you that. No. My sister taught me that not trying is worse than failing. Cole's jaw was set hard. I didn't try hard enough for Sarah. I was 12 and scared, and I let them take her without a fight. I've had 10 years to regret that. I'm not adding you to my list of regrets. Even if it destroys you. Especially then, Because what's the point of surviving if you become the kind of man who watches bad things happen and does nothing? Allora knelt beside him, mirror to all the times he'd knelt for her. Then we fight together. Not you for me. Us for us. Cole's expression softened. Us for us. I like that. So do I. The sheriff arrived at noon with 3 men. Allora watched from the window as they rode up, hard men with harder eyes, guns visible on their hips. The sheriff himself was older, gray-bearded, wearing a badge that caught the sunlight like a warning. That's Sheriff Potter, Cole said quietly. Fought with him in the range wars. He's not a bad man, but he's practical. He'll follow the law even when the law's wrong. Is that good or bad for us? Depends on whether he thinks the law's on our side. Cole stepped onto the porch before they could dismount. Allora stayed in the doorway, rifle held loose but visible, a statement without being a threat. Sheriff, Cole said evenly. Wasn't expecting company. Potter dismounted slowly, hands visible, movements deliberate. Cole, been a while. Not long enough if you're here on Frank's business. I'm here on the law's business. There's been a complaint. I need to investigate. Potter's eyes flicked to Allora. That her? That's Miss Callaway. And before you ask, she's here of her own free will, working under legal contract and armed with a rifle I taught her to shoot. So if you're planning to take her anywhere, you better be prepared to explain why to her, not just to me. Potter's eyebrows rose. That's quite a speech. It's quite a situation. The sheriff studied them both for a long moment. Then he gestured to his men to stay back and walked forward alone, stopping at the porch steps. Miss Callaway, he said, addressing her directly. I need to ask you some questions. Are you here willingly? Yes, Allora said clearly. Has Mr. Jarrett harmed you in any way? No. Threatened you? No. Forced you to work without pay? I'm paid in room board and wages per our contract, which I signed freely and can show you if needed. Potter nodded slowly. Frank says the contract's forged. Says you were stolen from a legal auction. Frank's a liar, Allora said flatly. Cole paid 3 silver coins, same as anyone else could have. The difference is, Cole treated me like a human being instead of livestock. Frank says you're being held against your will. Then Frank's welcome to ask me himself instead of sending the law to do his dirty work. Allora stepped fully onto the porch, rifle still in hand, but pointed down. I'm 19 years old. I can read and write. I can speak for myself. And I'm telling you straight, I'm here because I choose to be. Not because Cole forced me. Because this is the first place I've ever been where someone asked what I wanted instead of just taking what they wanted from me. Potter was quiet, considering. You've got spirit. I'll give you that. I've got freedom. Spirit's just what happens when you remember you're more than property. One of Potter's men shifted uncomfortably. The sheriff noticed and shot him a look that said, "Stay put." Then he turned back to Cole. "Let me see this contract." Cole retrieved it from inside. Potter read it carefully, lips moving slightly as he processed the terms. When he finished, he read it again. Finally, he looked up. These terms are unusually generous. That's because she's a person, not a servant, Cole said. The contract's just paper to keep men like Frank from claiming she's stolen goods. Well, the paper's legal, properly witnessed by Margaret Hensley, properly signed by both parties, properly filed with the county. Potter folded it carefully and handed it back. Far as the law's concerned, Miss Callaway's here legally under employment contract. Frank's complaint doesn't hold water. Relief flooded through Allora so suddenly her knees almost gave out. Cole's hand moved to her elbow, steadying her. So we're done here? Cole asked. Potter's expression turned grim. Not quite. See, there's the law, and then there's Frank. Law says she's yours to employ until the contract expires. But Frank's not a man who accepts losing. He's going to keep pushing. Let him push. He's got money, Cole. Got friends. Got influence you don't have living up here alone. Potter glanced at his men, then lowered his voice. Off the record, get out. Take her and go somewhere Frank's money doesn't reach. Montana, California. Somewhere far enough that he can't keep reaching for what he thinks he's owed. I'm not running, Cole said. Then you're a fool. Frank's already talking about other charges. Disrupting commerce, threatening violence. He'll make something stick eventually, and when he does, you'll be in jail and she'll be unprotected. Is your pride worth that? Cole looked at Allora. She saw the question in his eyes. Run or fight? Safety or principle, survival or stand? It's not pride, Allora said quietly. It's refusing to teach bad men that good people will always run. It's deciding that someone has to stand still and say no this far and no further. Potter shook his head. That's a good speech, Miss Callaway. But speeches don't stop bullets or jail cells. No, but neither does running. Frank will just find another girl to buy. Another life to ruin. Someone has to make it expensive for men like him to keep doing this. And you think you're strong enough to be that someone? I think I'm tired enough that I don't care anymore if I'm strong enough. I just care about trying. Potter studied her for a long moment. Then he turned to Cole. She's right, you know, about Frank. He'll just find another victim if you two disappear. Won't solve anything except your immediate problem. So, what do you suggest? Cole asked. I suggest you make Frank understand that taking her back will cost him more than his pride can afford. Potter's voice was careful, deliberate. I suggest you make it public. Make it loud. Make it so that everyone in town knows exactly what kind of man Frank is and exactly what he's trying to do. Men like Frank survive on reputation. You damage that enough, he'll back down. Might not like it, might hate you forever, but he'll back down. How do we damage his reputation? Allora asked. You tell your story, not to me, not in private, in public, at the town meeting next week. Potter looked between them. Tell everyone how you were sold, what you survived, what Cole did. Make Frank answer for why he's so determined to drag you back. Make the whole town witness what he is. Cole frowned. That'll put Allora through hell, having to speak about what happened in front of everyone. I'll do it, Allora interrupted. Allora. I'll do it. Her voice was firm. If speaking saves us, saves other girls, makes Frank think twice before buying another human being, then I'll speak. I'll tell them everything. Potter nodded approvingly. You're braver than most. I'm angrier than most. Anger's just easier to access. The sheriff actually smiled at that. Fair enough. Town meeting's Thursday. Be there, both of you. And be ready. Frank will have his own people ready to discredit you. He'll call you a liar. Call Cole a manipulator. Call the whole thing a scheme for attention, or money, or whatever story suits him. Let him, Allora said. Truth doesn't need much decoration. Lies are the ones that have to dress up fancy to be believed. After Potter left with his men, Cole and Allora stood on the porch in silence. The weight of what they'd just committed to pressed down like snow. You don't have to do this, Cole said finally. We could still run. Start over somewhere Frank's never heard of. And spend the rest of our lives looking over our shoulders, wondering when he'll find us, wondering which girl replaced me on that auction block. Allora shook her head. No. I'm tired of running. Tired of hiding. Tired of letting fear make my decisions. Speaking in front of the whole town that's not just scary, it's dangerous. You'll be exposed. Vulnerable. Every detail of your pain turned into public record. I know. Allora turned to face him. But here's what I realized while Potter was talking. My pain is already public. It happened in barns and auction blocks and places where other people watched and did nothing. The only difference now is I'm the one controlling the narrative instead of letting it control me. Cole's expression was complex pride and fear and something deeper. You're sure? I'm terrified, but I'm sure. She smiled without humor. Besides, you knelt in front of a barn full of men to give me dignity. Least I can do is stand in front of a town full of people and claim it." The days before the town meeting passed in anxious preparation. Margaret visited daily coaching Allora on how to speak publicly, how to handle hostile questions, how to keep her composure when Frank's people tried to rattle her. "Don't get emotional," Margaret instructed. "Emotion makes them dismiss you as hysterical. Stay calm, state facts, let the facts do the work." What if I can't stay calm? Then you pause, you breathe, you remember that crying doesn't make you weak, it makes you human, but don't give them ammunition by breaking down before you've said your piece. What if they don't believe me? Some won't, some are already decided, but some are on the fence. Those are the ones you're speaking to, the ones who can still be reached by truth. Margaret gripped Allora's shoulders. "You've survived worse than a hostile crowd. Remember that." Cole spent the time making sure Allora knew she could back out at any moment. "Right up until you start speaking, you can change your mind. No shame in it, no judgment." "I'm not changing my mind. But if you do?" "Cole?" Allora stopped him. "I know you want to protect me, but the best protection right now is truth, is standing up, is refusing to be silent anymore. Trust me on this." "I do trust you. I just—" He stopped searching for words. "I just wish the price of freedom wasn't this high." The price was already paid. I paid it in that barn on that block with every hand that hurt me. This isn't paying, this is collecting what's owed. This is taking back my voice. Thursday came cold and clear. They rode into town together, Cole on his horse, Allora riding beside him on the mare Margaret had loaned them. The town hall was already packed, seemed like the whole county had come to watch. Allora felt their eyes on her as they dismounted, felt the whispers ripple through the crowd. "That's her. Doesn't look like much. Frank says she's a liar." Frank would say that. They pushed through to the hall. Inside benches were packed shoulder to shoulder. Frank sat in the front row surrounded by his people, wearing his best suit and an expression of wounded innocence. When he saw Allora, his smile was sharp as broken glass. "Glad you could make it, Miss Callaway," he called out. "Looking forward to hearing your story. Should be quite the fiction." Allora didn't respond, just took her seat next to Cole and waited. The mayor called the meeting to order, droning through routine business, while tension built like steam in a sealed kettle. Finally, he reached the main event. "Now, there's been a dispute regarding the auction held 2 months ago. Mr. Frank Morrison claims impropriety. Miss Allora Callaway wishes to respond. The floor is yours, Miss Callaway." Allora stood. Her legs shook but held. She walked to the front, turned to face the crowd, and for a moment, every lesson Margaret had taught her fled her mind. All she could see were faces, curious, hostile, indifferent, sympathetic judging. Then she found Cole's eyes. He nodded once. "You've got this." Allora breathed in, out, and began. "My name is Allora Callaway. I'm 19 years old. And when I was 15, my father sold me to pay his debts." The room went quiet. "The man who bought me kept me for 8 months. He worked me 16 hours a day. He beat me when I was too slow. He locked me in a cellar when I talked back. When I finally fought back, hit him with a fire poker because he tried to—" She paused, swallowed. "When I fought back, they beat me unconscious and kept me locked up for 2 weeks. Then they sold me again." Someone in the crowd shifted uncomfortably. Frank's smile had disappeared. "I was sold 3 more times over 4 years. Different men. Same story. Work until you break. Stay quiet. Stay useful. Disappear into whatever role they needed you to play. By the time I ended up at Frank's auction, I'd forgotten what my own voice sounded like. I'd forgotten I had choices. I'd forgotten I was human." Allora's voice stayed steady, just like Margaret taught her. Facts. Clear. Unemotional. Then Cole Jarrett paid 3 silver coins, the same price anyone else could have paid, and did something I'd never seen before. He knelt. In front of everyone. Looked me in the eye. Treated me like I mattered. And he told me I didn't belong to him. That I didn't belong to anyone. That I belonged to myself. She paused, letting that sink in. Frank says Cole stole me. But you can't steal what isn't property. Frank says I'm here against my will. But I signed a legal contract. I manage Cole's supplies. I learned to shoot. I cook and clean and work because I choose to, not because I'm forced to. And I'm here today telling you this because Frank wants to drag me back to that auction block and sell me to someone else. Because to Frank, I'm not a person. I'm merchandise that escaped. Frank stood abruptly. That's a lie, I never... Sit down, Frank, the mayor said sharply. She has the floor. Frank sat jaw clenched. Allora continued. I'm not asking you to feel sorry for me. I'm asking you to look at what Frank's really fighting for. He's not fighting for justice. He's fighting for the right to buy and sell human beings without someone like Cole interfering. He's fighting for a world where girls like me don't get to speak, don't get to choose, don't get to exist as anything except property. She looked directly at Frank. And I'm here to tell you that world is ending. Because I'm speaking. Because I chose Cole's cabin over your auction. Because I'd rather die free than live as someone's livestock. The room was silent except for the sound of breathing. So you can side with Frank if you want, Allora said, turning back to the crowd. You can decide that commerce matters more than humanity, that his embarrassment is worth more than my freedom. But know what you're choosing. Know that every girl who gets sold after me, that's on you. Every father who thinks he can trade his daughter for coins, that's on you. Every man who sees women as merchandise, that's on you. She stepped back. That's all I have to say. For a moment, nobody moved. Then someone in the back started clapping. Slowly at first, then louder. Others joined. Not everyone Frank's people sat stone-faced, but enough. Enough that Allora knew she'd reach them. The mayor cleared his throat. Mr. Morrison, do you have a response? Frank stood face red. That girl is a liar and a manipulator. Cole Jarrett disrupted legal commerce, threatened violence, and stole property that was rightfully... She's not property? Someone shouted from the crowd. The contract's legal, another voice called. Margaret witnessed it. Frank's composure cracked. You're all fools if you believe her sob story. She's playing you for sympathy. Then why are you so desperate to get her back? Cole asked, standing. If she's just one girl, just one auction, why spend months trying to reclaim her? Why pressure the sheriff? Why spread rumors? Why are you here, Frank, fighting this hard unless it's about something bigger than 3 silver coins? Frank's mouth opened, closed. He had no good answer because the truth was ugly. It's about control, Allora said quietly. It's about winning. It's about making sure people like me know our place. That's why he's fighting. Not because I matter to him, because losing me means admitting someone like Cole can beat someone like him. And Frank can't stomach that. The crowd murmured agreement. Frank looked around, saw he was losing, and played his last card. Fine. You want her? Keep her. But mark my words, Jarrett, you've made an enemy today, and I don't forget. Neither do I, Cole said evenly. I remember every man who stood by while girls got sold like cattle. I remember every person who prioritized profit over humanity. And I'll keep remembering Frank. Every single day. Frank stormed out, his people following. The mayor banged his gavel. I think we've heard enough. The contract between Mr. Jarrett and Miss Callaway is legal and binding. This matter is closed. He looked at Allora. You're free to go, miss. And for what it's worth, you did a brave thing today. Allora nodded, too overwhelmed to speak. Cole took her arm gently and led her outside. The crowd parted for them, some nodding approval, others just watching. Margaret waited by the horses. That was perfect, Margaret said. You didn't break, didn't waver. Just truth straight and clean. I thought I'd cry, Allora admitted. You can cry now if you want. You've earned it. But Allora didn't cry. She felt too light for tears, too free, like something heavy she'd been carrying for 4 years had finally been set down. They rode back to the cabin as the sun set. Neither spoke until they were home, unsaddled the horses, and stood on the porch, watching the sky turn purple and gold. "You were extraordinary today," Cole said. "I was scared." "Extraordinary people usually are. That's what makes it count." Allora leaned against the porch rail, breathing in the clean mountain air. "It's not over, is it, Frank? We'll keep trying." "Maybe, but he'll have to do it in the light now. Everyone knows what he is. That limits his options." Cole paused. "And even if he tries something, we'll face it together, like we have been." "Together," Allora echoed. "I like that word." "So do I." They stood in comfortable silence as stars began appearing. The carved bird sat on the windowsill, inside, wings spread forever in the moment before flight. Allora thought about freedom, about how it wasn't a destination, but a practice. About how she'd spent 4 years being silenced, and one afternoon reclaiming her voice. "Cole," she said quietly. "Yeah. Thank you. For kneeling, for seeing me as human, for teaching me I was worth defending." She turned to face him. "For being the kind of man who chooses hard right over easy wrong." Cole's expression was soft. "You're welcome. But Allora, you did the defending today. I just gave you the space to remember you could." "Then thank you for the space. Always." They went inside. Cole built up the fire. Allora made tea. They sat at the table like they had 100 times before, but everything felt different now. Lighter, more real. Like they'd passed through something dark and emerged into a place where breathing didn't hurt. "What happens now?" Allora asked. "Now we live. We work. We keep building this life we're making together." "What if I want more than just survival?" "Then we build more than survival. What do you want, Allora?" She thought about that. About wants versus needs. About dreams she'd buried so long she'd forgotten they existed. "I want to learn to read better. Want to keep practicing shooting until I'm better than good. Want to help other girls if I can show them there's a way out." She paused. "Want to wake up without being afraid. Want to look at you without wondering when you'll change. Want to believe this is real and permanent and mine." "All of that sounds possible," Cole said gently. "We can teach you reading. You're already excellent with the rifle. And as for helping others, Margaret's been talking about starting something, a place for girls with nowhere else to go. She wants your help." "She does." "Said you're the only person she knows who'd understand what those girls need. Said you could teach them what you learned, that survival isn't the same as living and both matter." Allora felt something bloom in her chest. Purpose. The idea that her pain could be transformed into something useful, that her past could fuel someone else's future. "I'd like that," she whispered. "Then we'll make it happen." They finished their tea as the fire burned low. When Allora finally went to bed, she paused in the doorway of her small room and looked back. "Cole." "Yeah. The bed's big enough for two. If you ever want to stop sleeping on the floor." Cole went very still. "Allora, I don't expect—" "I know you don't. That's why I'm offering. Not because I owe you. Not because I think I have to. Because after 4 years of men taking what they wanted, I'd like to choose to share something freely. If you want." Cole was quiet for a long time. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure I want you to stop sleeping on hard floors when there's a perfectly good bed going half empty. I'm sure I trust you not to hurt me. I'm sure I'd rather have you close than far away." She smiled slightly. "The rest we can figure out as we go. The rest, whatever this is between us, whatever it's becoming. I don't have words for it yet. Don't know if it's love or gratitude or just two broken people learning to be less broken together. But whatever it is, I want to explore it. With you. If you want that too." Cole stood and crossed to where she waited in the doorway. He stopped just before touching, giving her space to change her mind. "I want that too," he said quietly. "Want to figure out what this is. Want to build something real that isn't based on transactions or obligations. Want to see who we become when we're not just surviving." "Then stay close," Allora said. "Not in the bed right away if that's too much, but in the room. Close enough that I know you're there." "I can do that." That night, for the first time since the auction, Cole didn't sleep by the door. He made a bedroll next to Allora's cot, close enough to hear her breathe, far enough to give her space. And Allora fell asleep not to the sound of her own fear, but to the sound of someone she trusted keeping watch, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. She dreamed of rivers she'd seen as a child, of water so clear you could see straight through to the bottom. And when she woke with the sun streaming through her window, Cole was still there, still watching, still choosing to stay. "Morning," he said softly. "Morning." Allora stretched, feeling muscles that didn't ache from fear. "You sleep at all?" "Some. Enough." "Liar, but I appreciate the dedication." She sat up. "What's the plan for today?" "Thought we'd fix the fence by the creek. Maybe check the traps. Make bread if you're up for it." "Sounds perfect." Allora smiled, a real smile, unforced and genuine. "Sounds like living." "It does, doesn't it?" They rose together and stepped into the main room. Sunlight poured through the windows, turning everything gold. The carved bird on the shelf caught the light, wings forever spread in that moment before flight. Allora picked it up, turning it over in her hands. "You know what I realized," she said. "What?" "The bird's not trying to fly away. It's just remembering it has wings." She set it back carefully. "That's what you gave me, not escape. Just the reminder that I could choose which direction to go." "And which direction did you choose?" Allora looked at him. This man who'd knelt in barns and slept on floors and taught her that kindness wasn't weakness. This man who'd given her space to be angry and broken and healing all at once. This man who'd stood beside her while she reclaimed her voice in front of a hostile crowd. "I chose here," she said simply. "I chose this cabin and these mountains and you and the life we're building together. Not because I was bought or forced or had no other options, because this is where I want to be." Cole's smile transformed his entire face. "Then welcome home, Allora Callaway." "Thank you, Cole Jarrett, for seeing me, for fighting for me, for teaching me that freedom isn't something someone gives you, it's something you claim for yourself." They stood in the morning light, two people who'd found each other in the worst possible circumstances and somehow built something worth keeping. Outside the mountains stood eternal and indifferent. Inside the fire would need tending, and bread would need making, and life would continue with all its mundane demands. But beneath all of that was something new. Something neither of them had expected to find. Not love, not yet, that would come later, slowly, carefully built on foundation of trust and choice and shared survival. But the possibility of love. The space where love could grow if they tended it with the same care they gave everything else. Allora Callaway had been sold for 3 silver coins, had been bought by a man who knelt instead of claimed, had been given freedom and taught to defend it. And now, standing in a cabin that felt like home for the first time in 4 years, she understood the truth Cole had been trying to show her all along. You couldn't buy a soul, you could only protect it long enough for it to remember its worth. And hers, she was learning, was worth more than all the silver in the world.